Well, as always, it is a beautiful Saturday morning somewhere in the world. It is right here outside my window. Hopefully, it is in your neck of the woods. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, as always, to Front Porch Brunch. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. I am sometimes known as the fine fella in the fedora. I am sometimes called the beau in the chapeau. I am sometimes referred to as the wise guy in the wide brim, but I am always known as your internet friend. Oh, it is so good to see all you guys this morning. We're going to give it a few minutes, let everybody start slipping into the room. It is great to see you guys. Oh, just a joy. I tell you what, there has been so much going on for me this week. Personally, internet related content creation. It's wild. It really is. Truly, truly is. So glad to have you here. This is Front Porch Brunch, our weekly review of items in the news. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, see what's going on in the world, and talk about it and figure out what it all means for everybody out there. So it's going to be a really good time. People are starting to filter into the room. We're glad to see everybody. Hopefully, a whole bunch of our usual cast of characters will show up in chat. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Rumble. Gonna be a good time for everybody here. So settle in, pour yourself a cup of coffee, pour yourself a cup of tea, and we'll see what happens out there. So always good to see you. Oh goodness, goodness me. What a week. What a week indeed. So glad to have you here. I've got to start this with an enormous thank you to all the members of Fedora Nation. This week, my YouTube channel crossed over the 500 subscriber mark. Now, to a lot of people, that may not mean a lot. For me personally, it means more than you all could ever know. I went back and looked at it on a calendar, and this channel got started in earnest in March of this year. So basically, I've been at this for now roughly, what is it? April, May, June, July, August, now the end of September, 6 months. Going into our seventh month in October. In 6 months, we have 500 subscribers. That's all you guys. I mean, I can sit here and make the content all day long. I can do live streams, I can do interviews, I can make videos, I can sit working on thumbnails, I can load it up to any social media platform that there is. But if you guys aren't watching, if you guys aren't subscribing, if you guys aren't doing everything that you do, this channel doesn't go anywhere. And the fact that we have grown so much in such a very short amount of time is just an enormous testimony to you guys. So from the bottom of my heart, and I mean this, thank you so much. You guys are nothing short of amazing. I can't thank you enough. I mean, I really can't. You could go anywhere that you wanted to on the internet and get political commentary, social commentary, etc. And a lot of you have chosen to give your subscription to, a wild-eyed boy from West Virginia. So it is truly, truly humbling. It really is. So thank you ever so much. I cannot thank and praise you guys enough for, pushing this small little channel so far down the track that you have. And it's going to go further. It's going to get bigger. It's going to be, hopefully something that's just extraordinary before it's all said and done. If for no other reason, I've got a big mouth and I got to talk to somebody. So, there you go. What are you going to do? So good to have all of you here this morning. We're checking everything out on YouTube and on Rumble. I'm trying something a little bit different this morning. I've now got a second laptop set up off to my immediate left. It would be your camera right. And it's just got Rumble on it, which I'm kind of hoping is going to help with certain aspects of what I'm doing here. So if you're out there in Rumble, give us a shout. Let us know you're out there. Love to hear from you in chat. I know some people are already watching on YouTube. We got some people watching on Rumble, no doubt. So yeah, Glad to have you here this morning. A lot of news to get into from the previous week and currently, as a matter of fact. Something broke late yesterday that has everybody in official Washington kind of up in arms. They just don't know what to make of this. Now, everybody knows what they think is going to happen come Tuesday of next week. And if it goes down the way that a lot of us think it could, this is going to get really, really interesting for the presidential election next year. Late Friday afternoon, Robert Kennedy posted something on Twitter, and I'm going to play you a snippet of this. So take a listen, folks, to this, the tease.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be in Philadelphia on October 9th to make a major announcement at the very birthplace of our nation. I'm not going to tell you right now exactly what that announcement will be. I can say, though, that if you've been waiting to come to one of my public events, this will be the one to come to.
Okay, that's the tease. Now, that sort of begs the question, what exactly is he talking about? Well, it has been reported, and I will show you what's up, from Mediaite.com, exclusive. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. planning to announce independent run. Article by Diane Falzone. We read the following. 2024 presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. plans to announce he will run as an independent on October 9th in Pennsylvania, Mediaite has learned. Kennedy's campaign machine is now planning, quote, attack ads against the Democrat National Committee in order to pave the way for his announcement in Philadelphia about running as an independent, according to a text reviewed by Mediaite. Quote, Bobby feels that the DNC is changing the rules to exclude his candidacy, so an independent run is the only way to go, a Kennedy campaign insider told Mediaite. Now, what are we to make of all this? This is going to get really, really interesting. Truly, it's going to be interesting. Because he's right, for the record. Good morning. Oh, and good morning, Miss Leanne. Glad to see you, my love. And thank you. And by the way, thank you for your very kind words on Twitter about our channel reaching 500 subscribers. That was very gracious of you. You are a darling. You are a dear. You are welcome here on my front porch anytime you want to show up. And someday, we're going to drink Bloody Marys together. Now, whether your husband needs to show up is a whole other question. But no, I'm just kidding. No, I do not need to be shot by somebody, over a woman. I don't need that in my life. But yes, someday we're going to have drinks together, my dear. And thank you so much for your very kind words. You are a darling. You are a dear. But yeah, Robert Kennedy Jr. apparently intend to. Let's try that again. Robert Kennedy intends to run for the presidency as an independent. He's been trying for the longest time to break through as a Democrat to challenge the incumbent Joe Biden, which is an extremely difficult thing to do, by the way. Okay, it really is. So I don't fault him for that. And yeah, so this is going to be, well, apparently my invitation for drinks has been taken up. So there you go. But yeah, Robert Kennedy Jr. is trying to run for president as a Democrat. And he's right. He's not wrong. He's getting screwed everywhere he turns. Truly. So, what kind of impact is this going to have if Robert Kennedy Jr. does what he's apparently threatening to do? Well, last night on Timcast IRL, among other guests that Tim had, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, showed up. So I want to play you a snippet of an exchange between Tim Pool and Richard Barris, the People's Pundit, about what impact this will have if Robert Kennedy Jr. does what is apparently being threatened, that he will run as an independent in 2024. Folks, this exchange is fascinating, so take a listen to this. This is going to be really good.
Here's what I think. I think they gave Kennedy the middle finger, which they should not have done. He's polling decently. I mean, polls have him in a wide range from 7 up to 25%. I think you were saying before the show that 7's a little low, 25's a little high. Yeah. But if he runs as an independent and he goes after the DNC over this, he is spiking the Democratic Party. Is going to help Trump.
This is a couple of things. One, if you're Trump, though, we had been asking, if your guy doesn't get the nomination, what are you going to do? And 33
of Republicans,
yeah, of everyone. So if for the Democrats, people who chose RFK, 30-something% for months have said, well, if it's Trump, I'll vote for Trump. So if you're Trump, you're looking at it, you're like, I want some soon to be disaffected RFK voters like Bernie voters in 2016.
Right.
So there's that part of it. There is scant polling on this. We're going to poll this. We're going to poll this, and we're going to poll this soon to see, Biden, the Democrat, Trump, the Republican, and of RFK, the independent, and we'll put West in there too. We'll see what it really, that's going to happen. He'll be on the ballot.
Cornell. I mean, Democrats are going to get spiked across the board.
If this
Cornell
really
West.
goes, if this goes bad for Democrats, which, it may not. I mean, I'll wait to see what the data says, but if it does, you're looking at the Ross Perot analogy is accurate then, folks.
What would be really hilarious though? There's a lot, Mike Cernovich's got a series.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. Pull it back in. Barris brings up a very, very, very valid point, and that is this. If you have a group of disaffected RFK Jr. voters, and 30% of them are saying in polling, okay, if it's not RFK Jr., then I'll vote for Trump. That is going to be a significant portion of voters. Any way you look at it, however that number works out to. Just remember the margins by which Trump lost places like Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin. If I remember correctly, Arizona was 10,000, Wisconsin was 20, and Georgia was 11. So that's what, 43,000 votes. All of those could conceivably flip back to Trump like that if a significant number of people who were going to vote for RFK switch over and they wind up voting for Trump. It would be just, and Barris is absolutely right to bring up this point, it would be just like 2016, where the Bernie bros didn't want to vote for Hillary because they didn't like her, and understandably so. There's not much to like about her in one form or another. And then they switched over to Trump. The same phenomenon could be about to happen again. Now, I've got to reach out to Laura, his producer and wife, because I've got to get Rich back on the show in October, because if he does this national poll, which, by the way, anybody can help support that project. It's referred to as the Public Polling Project. Go out to bigdatapoll.com if you want to make a contribution to help get that poll up and going. People can put in however much money they want to. But I'm dying to see what Rich finds out when he runs his next poll nationally with RFK Jr. being an independent. Because, and the point's perfectly valid. Everybody right now is polling the question of the 2024 election as though it's a binary choice. Trump, Biden. It's not going to be a binary choice, ladies and gentlemen. And what I'm getting at is this. There are going to be multiple candidates on the ballot at the same time as Trump and Biden, and they will affect the vote that the Republican and the Democrat nominees get. I mean, you take Trump, Biden, Cornel West, who's representing the Green Party in this case, and RFK Jr. as a libertarian. I mean, again, I haven't seen fresh polling on this question, but you got to think that Cornel West and RFK Jr. are going to siphon votes off of Joe Biden. Now, they'll take some from Trump as well. I'm not disputing any of that. But, yeah, they're going to absolutely hurt Biden. So that piece of news broke late Friday, and I thought, well, okay, we need to talk about that this morning. So, yeah, this is shaping up to be. I mean, there's any number of different elections previously for the presidency that you could use that have historical comparisons to what's about to happen. I think back, I mean, in my lifetime, I think back to the 1980 race when it was Reagan Carter. And then most people forget that John Anderson, who was a Republican congressman from Indiana, ran as a third party. Now, in that case, Anderson ran, but he didn't have much of an effect because Reagan was so dominant, he just blasted right through Jimmy Carter in the Electoral College and went on to a resounding victory. I mean, there's also the election, I believe it's 1884, the Grover Cleveland, when he was the second time elected to the presidency, non-consecutively, might I add. So you had that going on. I mean, there's all kinds of different elections where this could get really interesting really fast. So yeah, RFK Jr. apparently is going to pull the trigger. He's going to run as an independent. And it makes perfect sense because the filing deadlines to get on the ballot are coming up fairly quick. So we'll see. And Leanne says the following. I think Trump, it may be. I will, on this point, Leanne, I'll agree to disagree with you. And here's why I say that. Trump's base is locked in. The problem for Biden is I don't think he enjoys the same situation, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. I think there are a lot of people who look at Biden, they'll vote for him if they have to, but if they've got a choice, they won't. I mean, and the reason I disagree with you is this. There's been a lot of polling that's come out really from January until now, where you've got 2/3 of the Democratic Party that want somebody other than Biden. And let's be honest, the Democrats, the electorate of the Democrats, okay, they know what they're getting with Joe Biden. Okay. But there are going to be certain elements of the party represented by guys like Cornel West and RFK Jr. who are like, hey, if I don't have to vote for him, if I don't have to vote for him, I won't. Now, it's not going to be a huge percentage, but it's going to slice some votes off of him. Now, and again, I think those two guys being in this thing could take votes away from Trump as well. I want to see who it's going to hurt more. And yeah, I think they do. I think they want Gavin Newsom. They've got an absolute Jones to get him. Now, I don't think they're going to do it, but they want him. They want him so bad they can taste it. But the problem is, how do you get him in there? I mean, I heard one theory, and I will be fascinated to see how this shakes out, but I don't think she'll do it. I've heard one theory that says now that Dianne Feinstein's passed away, which also happened Friday morning, I mean, I should have seen it coming, but I wasn't expecting the news like everybody else. One theory says Gavin appoints Kamala Harris back into the Senate, but I don't see why that would happen because she's already vice president. Why would she agree to leave the vice presidency to go back to the Senate just so it helps Gavin slip into the Veep? I can't see that happening. Yeah, and that's the theory. That's what's being floated. But like I said, I can't see it happening. I mean, and I guess this is a question I'd have to ask people, constitutional scholars. Wouldn't she have to resign the vice presidency first? Well, maybe she will. Maybe she will. It's hard to say. Hard to say. Hang on one second. Go away. There we go. My other laptop over here was doing something weird to me. But yeah, I mean, I've heard that theory floated that Gavin appoints her to Feinstein's old seat. But in order for that to happen, the question that I have is, wouldn't she have to resign the vice presidency? I mean, Joe Biden right now has the best and worst problem of an insurance policy. I mean, I've always said all along, Kamala Harris is Joe Biden's insurance policy against anybody else in the Democratic Party trying to remove him. Because you know that there are Democrat politicians, Democrat bigwigs who are looking at the polling numbers, which we're going to get into some of that here in a minute. They're looking at the polling numbers. They're looking at Biden's age. They're looking at his gaffes in public speaking. And they're saying, ain't no way this guy's going to get through another 4 years. We got to get him out of here. But they can't make a move on Biden lest they wind up getting Kamala Harris, who, as we all know, and we've been talking about here on the show now for weeks and months on end, she polls worse than Biden does. So Biden knows he's got his insurance policy. Because the only way for Gavin Newsom to make this work, there's one of two ways. Either A, he directly challenges Joe Biden head on, which will not happen. I do not, under any circumstances, see Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, being willing to do that. The only other way to make this happen is for somebody, somewhere, somehow, to get Kamala Harris out of the vice presidency. Gavin either is appointed to the vice presidency by 2/3 of both houses of Congress, or somebody else is appointed that is not going to help Joe Biden at all. And then Joe Biden, realizing that the insurance policy is gone, declares that he's not going to run. But again, with or without the insurance policy, I just don't see Joe Biden giving up the presidency. Not without a fight. Because look, he's got what he's wanted. He's wanted that office for 40 years, and now he's got it. Plus, he has all the legal protections that go along with it. So, I think the Democrats would love to replace Joe. I don't think they can do it, absent him being willing to give it up, and I don't think he's willing to give it up. But Leanne, I think you're absolutely right, dear. It's going to be interesting either way. These next 3 months, the last quarter of 2023, politically speaking, could be some of the most fascinating that we have seen go down in the United States, maybe in the past 50 years. It's got that kind of potential. Or for all I know, it might be a dud. Don't know. But it's got the potential to get really, really interesting. So there's all that going on. So let's take a look at the clock. Where are we here? It is 5 minutes till 11. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch. This is our review of items in the news from the previous week, and we are so glad to have everybody here this morning. You're out there on YouTube. You're out there on Rumble. Well, let me check Rumble real quick. All right, we got some folks out there on Rumble watching. And, as I say to you folks on Rumble every week, God love you. I'm glad you're here, but daggone it, would you please drop a comment in chat? Y'all are the quietest, most polite bunch of viewers I've ever seen. I love you. I absolutely love you. But daggone it, I wish you'd say something. I love everybody put something in chat, even trolls. Which, by the way, apparently our little channel here is gathering some interest. We had a troll Wednesday night for the live stream we did covering Donald Trump's speech in Detroit. And I didn't get the chance to interact with him. I know that Robert and Cam from Flagrant Triggers were absolutely just trying to wind him up. And I did see that some of y'all, Leanne, you especially, took up for the honor of our little group. And I was having to keep an eye on what was going on. So thank you so very much. Thought y'all were going to smack him down hard there at some points. When I went back and read, I was like, whoo. But yeah, if you're out on Rumble this morning, drop a line. We want to hear from you. We're glad to hear from everybody out there. We are on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on Twitter. We are not monetized on YouTube, by the way, but we are on Rumble. So if you feel so inclined to drop a Rumble rant and therefore contribute to the Fedora Fund, well, I'm not going to be offended by that. So feel free to do so, but please do not do anything that puts you into financial harm's way. I would feel very bad about that. But if you got some extra coin to drop in the cup, well, go right ahead and do it. So let's move on to some other news items that have been going on this week. And one sort of feeds into another. And the first one that I want to talk about is something that happened very early on, actually last Sunday, and then it became the talk of the town. Oh, I know. He was awful, Leanne. Just absolutely awful. So yeah, that Larry guy was just a piece of work. But ABC News Washington Post dropped something last Sunday that absolutely sent official Washington into a case of the vapors and fainting spasms. So let me get this pulled up. Trump edges out Biden 51-42 in head-to-head matchup. Now, this headline, like I said, just caused everybody on the Potomac to just faint. Because you got to realize something. Donald Trump is under 4 different indictments in 4 different courtrooms around this country. His business up in New York City, they've declared that he's committed fraud. And now, starting Monday, his business is on trial with the potential to be completely liquidated. Everything that he has built over the past 50 years in New York City, it could potentially go up in smoke just like that, thanks to some idiot judge. Okay, and when I say idiot, he's an idiot. We'll get to that in a minute. So in spite of all that, ABC News does a poll, and it comes out that Trump is 9 points ahead of Biden. And everybody, and I do mean everybody, I think he can. I think he can appeal it. And I hope he does. But everybody, when they heard about this poll, were like, oh, this can't be true. This is not true. And you know what? I can't necessarily disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. Because remember, and Rich Barris points this out, this is the same polling firm that in 2020 said that Joe Biden was going to win Wisconsin by 17 points. And if you all remember, Joe Biden won by maybe 1%. So that's like a 16-point miss. So I'm willing to give everybody a certain amount of understandable credit when they say this poll cannot possibly be right. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Do I think Donald Trump has a lead on Joe Biden right now? Absolutely. How big do I think that lead is? I'm going to say anywhere from 2 to 5 points. I think it's probably more toward the 5 end of it, but I think he's got a lead on Biden. I genuinely do. I mean, you take economic conditions, how things are going in the war in Ukraine that we are funding, which, oh, by the way, there's some big news on that we're going to get to in a little bit. And you take everything in totality, and the American people are looking at the choice between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and they're like, yeah, I didn't like his tweets, but daggone it, my life was a whole lot better off under Trump than it sure is under Biden. So yeah, I think legitimately Trump's got a lead on Biden. And it's probably anywhere from 2 to 5 points. Well, I just love it when my instincts get confirmed, because the very next day on Monday, another poll dropped from what's called Harris X. What did it show? Trump with a 5-point lead. That's right. Yeah. Who's your political daddy? That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's right. 5-point lead. And if they were just getting up off the floor from the case of the vapors they had over the ABC Washington Post poll, they definitely fell right back over again. I'm telling you, they can't stand it. They cannot stand the fact that in spite of everything they've done to this guy, indict him in 4 different courtrooms across the country, harass his family members, harass him, try to take away his businesses up in New York City. Everything they put this man through, and he just keeps on them. It reminds me of that great line from Rocky II when Apollo Creed is in his office, he's looking at his trainer, and he says, "Why are you so scared of this guy?" And the trainer looks at Apollo Creed and says, "I saw you," talking about Rocky Balboa. He said, "I saw you beat that man like you have never beaten anybody before." And the man kept coming. That's what Donald Trump is right now to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is, in this analogy, the Apollo Creed. Joe Biden, in one form or another, is absolutely, physically, illegally beating the crap out of Donald Trump. He's throwing roadblocks in his way. The DNC is doing everything they can. The courts are doing everything they can. And Trump just keeps coming. So when they see polls like this, don't you think that they aren't about ready to, like, I don't know, take Prozac, whatever you got to do to help you get over? But people inside Washington, D.C. are looking at all this going, oh my God, how? I'll tell you how. You screwed up the country. You've been screwing up the country for years. And you think that somehow that people aren't going to notice this and they're not going to hold you responsible, which we're going to get to that. Keep that thought in the back of your head. When Donald Trump left office, gas prices were significantly lower than they were. The national average was like $2.35. Inflation was still running at a very low level of under 2%. There were a lot of signs that the economy was back on the upswing, even after COVID. And all the insane things that we did to hamstring the economy. And then Biden gets in, and everything starts to reverse itself off. So yeah, you're wondering why people are mad at you, you members of the Democratic Party, you party bigwigs, you Democrat politicians in D.C. You can't understand why people don't like you. Because you adversely affected their lives. You're making it harder for them to put food on the table for their families. You're making it harder for them to pay their bills. You're making it more costly for them to get to work. You're reducing the purchasing power of their dollar. So yeah, the American people are just a little bit more than pissed at you and the head of your party, which is Joe Biden. So you don't understand why people don't like you? Go look in the mirror. You're your own problem. But as interesting as all that was, there were other things that happened this week. Oh, which, by the way, I should get one last thing on the polling. And I want to pull these up because these are very telling. So you take all these polls of Donald Trump against Joe Biden. If you take them and average them together, and again, I've got problems with the idea of averaging polls together, but it is what it is from Real Clear Politics. Take them together, Trump has a very slight lead on Joe Biden nationally. As a matter of fact, there were 3 more polls that came out this week, one from Morning Consult, one from YouGov, and one from the New York Post. Biden with a +1, Biden with a +5, New York Post, Trump +3. Now, as I've indicated earlier, all those polls most of them are within margin of error. Okay. There's a few of them that get results that are outside the MOE. So yeah, I think Trump's got a lead. Now, that also gets to another set of polls. Republican nomination. Yeah, and that's a good point, Leanne. It's a really good point. Those polls are heavily Democrat pollers. Yeah, they usually like D+1, D+3, something like that. And yeah, and Trump's still got a lead in some of them. That's a really good point. Then you got the Republican nomination process. And I don't even know what to call this anymore. The word joke is the thing that comes to my mind because that's what this situation is turning into. I'll explain why I say that in a minute. But here's the latest average of polls. Trump has a 40-point lead average nationally on everybody else that's running for president on the Republican side. And that's got to be galling to people inside the Republican Party who don't want Trump. They're using the legal problems he's got as the excuse to try to want to get rid of him. They want to get rid of him anyway. They can't stand him. But now they can't even do that. Now, I bring up that poll to get into really our next set of issues. Wednesday night of this week, there were 2 competing events that were going on in America. One was the GOP Presidential Debate out in Simi Valley, California at the Reagan Library. And the other was Trump's speech in Detroit, Michigan. And you talk about a contrast in 2 events. Now, for those of you who are able to watch it and have now watched it a little more, we did a live stream Wednesday night. And by the way, I want to again thank Cam from Flagrant Triggers, Brentley from Dangerous Rhetoric Podcast, Tracy from Keto and Crime, and my good buddy Ruben Christopher Haynes. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you're not subscribed to their channels, please do so. These are some very, very sharp, very insightful, and fun commentators on whatever issue it is they happen to be talking about. And I love all of them to death. I cannot wait for the day. I mean, Cam I've met in person. I've met Crash Mondo in person. That was down in Orlando. But I've never met Tracy in person yet. I haven't met Brentley, and I haven't met, no, I take that back, Ruben. I met Ruben in Florida as well. And Crash, Cam, and Ruben are all 3 just solid guys. Ruben is probably one of the coolest dudes you'll ever meet. And anytime I get the chance to hang out with him, if I can do it, everything works out right. I love doing it because they're just great people. They really are. I have not met Tracy yet, and I haven't met Brentley yet. Although those 2 are just a load of fun. They are genuinely a load of fun. And we did a live stream covering Trump's speech, which we'll get to that in a moment. And then there was the debate, which has been affectionately named the Simi Valley Leanne. Bravo, my love. Bravo. But Trump's speech in Detroit, for my part, okay, let's get into this. For my part, I found that speech to be interesting on so many different levels, and I'll tell you why. There was one thing that I kept noticing that Trump was doing in that speech, and it was a fascinating thing to watch. And what I'm getting at is this. The strike right now involves the UAW's understandable aggravation over wanting to get more money from the big three for the manufacturing of their cars. Because let's be honest about it. I mean, all three of them, Ford, GM, and whatever the name of that third one is, whatever Chrysler used to be, have made record amounts of money over the past few years. But in part, they've done it because of monies and subsidies that they've received to start manufacturing electric vehicles. Okay? Which is kind of a weird situation. You know, you're basically paying the auto industry to make a product that is not profitable for them in the long run. But we'll get to that in a moment. So that's basically the gist of what's driving the strike. Trump, the thing that I found unusual about the speech is that Trump tried to reframe the terms of why the UAW ought to be on strike. And here's what I'm getting at. He kept coming back to this point, which is perfectly valid, by the way, but no one had really articulated it up to this point. It's like, guys, why are you trying to get more wages if in 2 to 3 years your jobs aren't going to be there because the electric vehicles are going to be made in China? Now, I've got to admit, I found that argument and that statement to be some political bravery you normally don't see out of a politician. But you could also make an argument Trump's not a politician. He's a businessman with common sense. But he kept coming back to that point, which I thought was one of the most fascinating things. The whole reframing of the argument. It's not about wage increases, which are important. You should try to get them. But if you don't have a job in 2 to 3 years, what difference does it make how much money you're getting paid up front? You know. So I want to play a little snippet of Trump's speech that I was able to find. So, folks, let me get this pulled up. And ladies and gentlemen, take a listen to this.
Why is it that these big, powerful car companies with guys that are making $35 million a year immediately quit? They say, you want electric vehicles, we'll give it to you when the damn things don't go far enough and they're too expensive. And I'm not in that business, but I know a lot about it. They don't go far enough and they're too expensive. A vote for Cookie Joe means the future of the auto industry will be made in China. That's what it's going to be. That's where they're made. My pledge to every automaker is this: a vote for President Trump means the future of the automobile will be made in America.
Okay. So that's Trump in Detroit, Michigan. Now, lest you think that his argument is not picking up steam or not being picked up by the UAW members, take a look at this. UAW strike expands to 25,000 auto workers as talks stall over job-killing electric vehicles. This is from Breitbart, headline article by John Binder. More than 25,000 auto workers are now striking against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis as negotiations stall over worries that President Joe Biden's electric vehicle mandates will spur massive job losses and wage cuts down the road. UAW President Shawn Fain, and by the way, every time I say his name, I keep wanting to say Sinn Féin, which is the terrorist wing, or was the terrorist wing of the Irish Republican Army. I don't know, terrorist wing of an Irish Republican Army, head of a union. Okay, never mind. I'm being bad. Anyway, Shawn Fain, not Sinn Féin, announced that 7,000 auto workers at GM's Lansing Delta Township Assembly in Lansing, Michigan, and Ford's Chicago Assembly in Chicago, Illinois, were joining the strike against the Big Three. The UAW strike now includes auto workers at 43 plants across 21 states. Meanwhile, Fain said the UAW is making significant progress with Stellantis. We will win. Our strategy is working, Fain said. Over the past 10 years, the big three have a record $250 billion in North American profits. Over the last 6 months, the big three have made a record $21 billion in total profits. Holding up negotiations, new reports reveal, is automakers' commitment to carrying out Biden's electric vehicle mandate that seeks to shower billions in taxpayer-funded subsidies on companies promoting electric vehicles over gas-powered cars. Okay, let's get into this for a second. The irony abounds in this whole situation, okay? So let's stop and analyze this for a second. Joe Biden and the Democratic Party are absolutely committed to replacing the gasoline-powered engine in a car with an electric-powered motor. They do this, they claim, on the grounds that it will help the environment. Which, by the way, I am so sick and tired of nobody on the political right in Washington, D.C., or in intelligentsia in general, not arguing against this climate change crap. There are thousands of scientists in this country and around the world who are coming out with evidence that climate change, as so defined by the Democrats, is a load of crap. Yet policy after policy after policy after policy is being moved forward, and no one is going to stop it at the root. I mean, you can chop down that tree at the root and the thing will fall right over. They don't challenge the underlying assumptions on which these policies are built. We need electric vehicles. Why? Because climate change is bad, but climate change isn't real. Well, let me rephrase that. The climate may change, but the argument that says that man somehow has some kind of ability to adversely affect climate is crazy. It's absolutely insane. But that's why the Democrats do it ostensibly. So to that end, they're giving billions of dollars to the big three, Ford, GM, and Stellantis, to make electric-powered vehicles. Obviously, these subsidies are increasing the profitability of these companies because it's cash in. So now the union, seeing that there are these record profits to these companies, want their cut. The ultimate irony in all this is the money that they're going to get right now is not going to be there in 2 or 3 years because, as Leanne rightly points out, the automakers are losing $60,000 on every electric vehicle. Now, I am a free market capitalist as much as anybody else, and I'm a free marketeer. If you want to buy an electric vehicle and you feel that this is best for you for any number of different reasons, then go ahead and buy one. I got no problem with that. Okay? I don't think anybody does. If you want to buy a gasoline-powered vehicle, go for it. Personally, I'll just stick with the old tried and true. Just give me a gasoline-powered engine in a Ford car. Yes, I like my Fords. Always have. It goes back to being the son of a man who drove Fords. I love my Fords. But if you want to buy a gasoline-powered vehicle, go for it. I think it's great. Do it. If it works for you and the numbers are right and everything else, yeah, I think it's fantastic. Do it. However, I don't want the federal government mandating down to me that I have to do something, especially when I know it's not based on common sense. And I'm just enough of an American that I still have a stubborn streak that I don't like it when someone tries to tell me what to do. Okay? The irony in all of this is that the union may get, some wage increases for their people, but in a few years, these cars may not even be manufactured in America. Plus, there's another consideration. And I don't think union leadership is either aware of this or they're even talking about it. even if these cars, these electric vehicles, are still manufactured in America, it takes fewer and fewer UAW members on the assembly line to put these cars together. Why? Because they have fewer parts. So you're either going to, in the short term, you're going to wind up laying off a bunch of people, and UAW members are going to be back out on the street without a job, therefore not making any money, or the jobs aren't going to be here in a few years anyway because they're going to move the damn plants overseas or down to Mexico or up to Canada. But they ain't going to be in Detroit. And I think the UAW membership understands this. That's why they're fighting. That's why they're fighting with the manufacturers. They know what these electric vehicle mandates are going to mean for their jobs and for their wages in the long run. So I think the union membership gets it. The leadership is too beholden to the Democratic Party to ever buck them seriously on this. Although the fact that they are on strike, I think, is fascinating. Fascinating to watch. Now, one last point about this this speech that Trump gave in Detroit. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. This is from the Detroit News. And I want to point to one paragraph. About 400 to 500 Trump supporters were inside a Drake Enterprises facility for the speech. Drake Enterprises employs about 150 people, and the UAW doesn't represent its workforce. It wasn't clear how many auto workers were in the crowd for the speech, which was targeted to them. One individual in the crowd who held up a sign that said Union Members for Trump acknowledged that she was not a union member when approached by a Detroit news reporter after the event. Another person with a sign that said Auto Workers for Trump said he wasn't an auto worker when asked for an interview. Both people did not provide their names. Now, a lot of people are making a big kerfuffle about this. Oh my gosh, a woman held up a sign that said Union Members for Trump and she wasn't a member of a union. So, how do you know that the message on the sign isn't necessarily true, even though the person holding the sign is not representative of the message on the sign? Same thing with the other guy about auto workers for Trump. You could have auto workers who are for Trump, even though the person holding up the sign that tells you that message isn't necessarily an auto worker. I mean, to me, this kerfuffle is a whole bunch of nothing. But as always, somebody's got to make something out of something. So I just thought I'd bring it up for sake of being fair and balanced, as it were. But there is one other point that I'll make about the speech. And it's something that Reuters news service astutely observed. Let me show you something real quick. Minutes before the GOP debate kicked off, Donald Trump was on stage in Michigan delivering a speech to Detroit auto workers. By shunning both debates, Trump has signaled that he is focused on Biden rather than his Republican contenders who trail him badly in the polls. And that is probably one of the smartest things that Reuters news service has said in a long time. Trump's already passed the primary. Now, I say that, and I know there are going to be people out there that are absolutely stomping their feet, and they're pulling their hair, and when they're not pulling their hair, they're putting their hands over their ears because they don't want to hear it. There's still a primary going on. We haven't even cast a vote yet in any of the states. You're right. You're absolutely right. There is still a primary going on. We are, as of tomorrow, we're going to be 2.5 months away from the Iowa caucuses. You're absolutely right. Votes have not been cast yet. However, I will point out something, again, that is not necessarily unique to me, but it is historically true. And if you don't believe me, go talk to Rich Barris. He'll tell you the exact same thing I'm about to say to you right now. There is nobody in American political history who's had a lead this big on a field of opponents and gone on to lose his party's nomination. Let me say that again. There is nobody in history in America who has had a lead this big in a presidential primary race against his field of opponents and gone on to lose the nomination. Now, as I am not God and I am not Nostradamus, I do not have clairvoyant foresight of the future. Anything could happen in 2.5 months, but absent some earth-shattering event between now and January 15th, Donald Trump's going to win the Iowa caucus. And he'll do so quite handily. I've heard it said that the record, and I've got to look this up, that the record margin of victory in the Iowa caucus is 12%. Is Donald Trump going to win Iowa by more than 12%? I have no idea. Will he win Iowa quite handily? Oh, yes, he will. Yes, he will. And then we're going to roll up into New Hampshire about a week later, and Trump's going to hold everybody by the nose and kick him in the rear end, politically speaking. And on it's going to go. Trump's going to be the nominee of the Republican Party, unless the Republicans find a way to somehow keep him off the ballot for the November election. And if they do that, the next sound you hear is a giant swirling sound as the Republican Party goes down the drain nationally as a political party. They're done. If they do this, they'll split the party asunder. And they ain't going to be no putting it back together again. So Trump's going to be your nominee. So yeah, the Reuters news service is absolutely right. Trump is moved past the primary, and he's now focusing on Joe Biden. And frankly, given how things went at the Simi Valley shit show, I'm not surprised that Trump's moving on, because frankly, the rest of the field, with maybe one or two notable exceptions, are a bunch of very unserious, self-serving hacks. Now, they might otherwise be nice people if they weren't running for president, but I'll tell you what, their desire to beat Donald Trump is bringing out the worst in these people. And the American people, particularly Republican voters, are rendering a verdict on what they think of all this nonsense that's going on out there. Take a look at this. This is from the Conservative Treehouse. The ratings dropped 27% for the second GOP debate. 9.3 million people tuned in to watch the debate on Fox, Fox Business, and Univision. That's a 27% drop from the first debate that had 12.8 million. There's a term that's being floated around right now in media and polling circles that it's Trump or bust. If you need proof of that phenomenon, there's proof right there. No one cares to watch these people. Now, I shouldn't say no one cares. People do. They have their candidates. They're supporting them. I get it. I understand that. And by the way, if you're supporting Ron DeSantis or Doug Burgum or Vivek Ramaswamy or whoever, I may not agree with your choice, but I respect the fact that you have the right to support whomever you will. And if that's who you choose to give your support to, whoever it may be, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, whatever, I respect it. I may not agree with you, but I respect you. But the overwhelming majority of Republicans aren't watching these people. And frankly, given the way they acted on stage the other night, you can kind of understand why. You don't believe me? Let me give you just a taste of what this was like the other night. Okay? You want to know how these people comported themselves? Watch this.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis. We want to get things done. Here's how we get done in Washington. We must find. Can we please respect the time?
I swear, it almost makes me want to put in a pair of earplugs. And yeah. Is there someone in this group that Donald Trump might take as the Veep? And Leanne, I also agree with you on this one. you can't have this many people on stage. Practically speaking, you can't do it. I mean, look, if you're going to watch a debate among candidates for president, my first question is, why are you doing it? Well, maybe you're watching to see who might wind up being the VP. Okay, that's legitimate. But I would argue that most people want to know, okay, you want to be president of the United States, you want to hold the most powerful office in the world. What do you believe in? What do you want to do? Okay. Well, I think people want to know, where do you stand on the issues, and what is your plan for making the country better? How are you going to improve the lives of your fellow citizens? With all due respect to anybody who's supporting any candidate, does anybody really think having 7 people stand on stage together and yell and snipe and talk over each other and try to get the best soundbite they can is really doing the country or their party membership any good? I would argue no. And I think Leanne brings up a very valid point. You cannot, practically speaking, have this many people on stage and have a true substantive discussion about the issues. Okay? I think I'm just going to throw an idea out there for what it's worth. I think it would be better if Fox set up a series of one-on-one debates. I'm not kidding. For example, Ron DeSantis and let him debate one-on-one, I don't know, Nikki Haley. Let Tim Scott one-on-one debate Chris Christie. That'd be fascinating to watch. Talk about a contrast in style. But one of the other reasons why you practically cannot have this many people on stage together, it's the same thing going back to 2016. I mean, let's think about this for a second. You're the anti-Trump crowd. You don't want Trump to win. So what ought to happen is you coalesce behind one person, and that person be the leader of the anti-Trump force, and let that person debate Donald Trump one-on-one. The problem is all these people are staying in the race. The anti-Trump vote is divided. They can't get anywhere. They can't get any traction, but none of them will leave the race. The irony abounds in all this. And one of the other ironic things about this is it's the same stupid mistake that was made in 2016. All those people stayed in the race. Trump only needed 30 to 40% of the vote, and he wins the primary. Now, this time's different in that I would argue Trump is more powerful now than he was 8 years ago as a candidate for president. So it's a different set of dynamics, but the same stupid mistakes being made. All these people are staying in, and they're dividing the vote, and they're making a mess of the debates. And yeah, to go to the point about you can't have a substantive discussion. Yeah. Let's have some individual one-on-one conversations. So that's part of it. Then we have the glorious moments that were this debate. I mean, for example, talking about Chris Christie, he had his 15 seconds of fame with the infamous now Disney reference.
You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on this stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Can we just point this man to a buffet and send him away? Seriously? Hey, Chris, the buffet line starts right over there. Go. When Chris Christie was governor of New Jersey, I may not have agreed with him on everything. Yeah, you got that right, sister. You got that right for sure. I mean, I didn't agree with Chris Christie on everything, but I thought he was a very effective governor for New Jersey. You know, he truly, truly was. And at one time, I would have considered him for different positions inside the Republican Party or nationally, even. Maybe even Attorney General would have been interesting at one time. But this guy is just, he's bitter. I mean, what's his campaign agenda? Screw Trump. If somebody else could tell me what it is he's in this race for, please do, because I can't figure it out. I have no idea why he's still in this race. And old Nikki Haley, she didn't do herself any favor. She came across like a shrill shrew. Take a listen to this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber for what you say. Because
yeah. And now the never Trumpers want to make her the one that goes against Donald Trump, or the people are talking about putting her on as the Veep. I'm going to say this right now, and I don't care who doesn't like it. I mean, if you disagree with me, that's fine. I still love you. I don't want that woman anywhere near the vice presidency. I don't want that woman anywhere near the presidency. She needs to go back to South Carolina, sit on her front porch, drink some sweet tea, and just enjoy retirement. Just go. She is George W. Bush in a skirt. She is a neocon warmonger who wants to get somebody else's kids killed somewhere else in the world. Honey, you just go on back down to South Carolina and you just mind your own damn business. We don't want you. Just go away. Yeah, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It should piss everybody off. You may not agree with Vivek Ramaswamy on a lot of things. You may not agree with his style. You may not agree with the cheerleading for Donald Trump. That's fine. I get that. But to sit there and say that you feel dumber every time he talks speaks more about you and your lack of intellectual capacity and your lack of willingness to look at different ideas than it does about him. Yeah, bless her heart. Translation, she's a dumbass. I don't want Nikki Haley anywhere near the vice presidency. I don't want her anywhere near a position of power where she could wind up doing something. Now I can just hear it now. Oh, you're bashing on women. No. That's not true. There are a lot of women in politics, be it in America or around the world. I have not one qualm with them being in a position of power where they have the potential to influence other people's lives. That's not my issue. My issue with Nikki Haley is her ideas, especially when it comes to Ukraine, especially when it comes to foreign policy in general. She's no better to me than a Paul Wolfowitz or a Dick Cheney or a George W. Bush. Let's send money and military all around the world and stick our nose into stuff that frankly is none of our damn business. She's the next generation of that line of thinking, and that line of thinking needs to be snuffed out fast. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox. But yeah, this debate was an absolute shit show. Sorry, but it's true. And believe me, I'm not the only one that felt that way. Quote, I have officially given up on this stupid Fox debate. Hashtag shut up is the worst debate I've seen in my lifetime. Why does the GOP keep going to these networks? The only winner, Trump, because he was not near any of it. Hashtag Fox failure. And Glenn Beck is absolutely right. I mean, that debate is a failure on so many different levels. But Ronna McDaniel and the RNC have got to keep this charade going. They've got to have debates. They're having another one in Miami, by the way, in November. Did you know that? They're having a third one before Thanksgiving. And guess what? Donald Trump has already said he's not going. If he does what he says he's going to do, that'll be the third debate that he chooses not to engage in. And I'll make a prediction right now. Ain't going to hurt him. Not going to hurt him not one little bit. I think it's going to be on Fox. I think it's going to be on Fox. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I think it is going to be on Fox. They're going to have a debate in Miami. I believe it's November the 8th, if I remember the date correctly. And Donald Trump's already said, I'm not going. He said, I'm not going to do it. And like I said, I don't blame the guy. I mean, his opponents and other people are going to say, he's ducking the debates. He doesn't want to defend his record. No, he doesn't want to get in the middle of a mud pit and get in the middle of a verbal food fight. Why bother? You're 40 points ahead. There's no tactical advantage for you to show up to this thing. But I'll stand by what I've said before, and I'm really hoping that somehow, some way, my suggestion gets back to Donald Trump and his people. So if you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who might know somebody, pass this on to him, okay? Donald Trump, a matter of fact, and I'd do it on the night of the Republican debate. I'd go up to New York City. I would do a speech in front of the Roosevelt Hotel, which is, by the way, if you don't know, the Roosevelt Hotel is where all these migrants are being bussed into that are coming in from the southern border. Do a speech in front of the Roosevelt Hotel on border security and immigration policy. And just stick it. Just stick it right up the RNC's rear end. And Joe Biden's while you're at it. Or a second alternative, I say he needs to go on with Joe Rogan. Now, understand that's got some risk to it, because Joe Rogan's going to ask him anything. It's not going to be some scripted, you can only ask Donald Trump these questions. Oh, no. Which, by the way, I don't think that's what Tucker Carlson did either. I think Tucker Carlson went where he wanted to go. But Joe Rogan, he ain't going to, he does, no F's given, okay? 0 F's given. He's going to ask Donald Trump whatever he wants to, but I'll tell you what, you talk about a monumental gathering that would probably burn down the internet. If Donald Trump goes on with Joe Rogan, that would be amazing. And Leanne, you may be right. Maybe you won't. But I'm not going to lie. I hope it happens. I really do. We'll see. You know, it might very well be the case that Rogan won't do it. But it doesn't mean I can't wish for it. But yeah, I mean, Trump said, I'm not going. I'm not about to. You can't blame the guy. Oh, he did say that. Rogan has said he won't give him the platform. Well, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Because I would have figured that Rogan would want it, if for nothing else, the intellectual curiosity of sitting down and talking to Trump. Oh, here's another possibility. Hello, small time republic. Glad you're out there, brother. But yeah, Patrick Bet David's. That'd be interesting. Okay, I mean, I don't know that much about Patrick Bet David, but I think it'd be interesting. Sure, that's what I'm saying. Why does Donald Trump, or for that matter, why does any Republican candidate have to go on this formatted whatever it is? Okay. You know, I also, and honestly, it does. It speaks to a misunderstanding among most politicians, regardless of party, about how you get your message out these days. I mean, Donald Trump has a generational hang-up with media. And when I say generational, what I'm getting at is this. He thinks that somehow the mainstream media is still relevant. Now, don't get me wrong. They're powerful. I just don't think they're relevant. They're powerful in that the alternative media does not yet have quite, and this is not the right word, but it's the best thing I can come up with. the market share, as it were, to say we're talking to X percentage of information viewers or information gatherers. They're out there. There's all kinds of wonderful alternatives to the big three networks and the Washington Post, the New York Times, etc. But how prevalent it is yet, don't know. Don't know. But Republican politicians especially, and Trump in particular, are just generationally hung up on this idea. I've got to go do an interview with Meet the Press. I got to go sit down with, George Stephanopoulos. I got to do this person's show or that person's show or whatever. No, you don't. No, you don't. Yeah, and yeah, small time, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right about this. Yeah, what we're getting is some kind of the political equivalent of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation or some such nonsense. Absolutely crazy. One last point on this, and I want to. Scott Walker put out a tweet the other night. 8 years ago, I stood on the debate stage at the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum. A week later, I got out because it was clear the Trump train left the station. The rest of the 2024 field may soon have to come to that same decision. So far, none of them have made a convincing case to Trump supporters to change their vote. It's time to make a break, and he ain't wrong. So we'll see where all that goes. It is 11:45 on Saturday morning. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch. We are very happy to see everybody who's here. Small Time Republic, Leanne, handful of others out there. We got people watching on Rumble. We got people watching on Twitter, and we got people on the YouTube. So we're glad you all are here. 15 minutes to kick off, by the way, for all of you college football fans out there. Which, by the way, drop a comment in chat. How are your college football teams doing so far this year? I know that Leanne's a VMI fan. I'm a Marshall fan. My boys are 3-0. They're homecoming games this weekend. So, small time, are you a college football fan? Small time Republic, are you a college football fan? And if so, who's your team? And how are they doing? I'm just curious, Fortunately, thank God, life is not all about politics. Praise Jesus. College football is one of my distractions. Okay, and I love college football. I love small time teams and big time teams. Okay, so VMI is 2-2. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's good to hear. Have they started conference play yet? Just out of curiosity, or are they not affiliated anymore? Not sure. Auburn is 3-1. Oh, you're an Auburn fan. Oh, okay. Good. Cool. Now, I'm going to warn you, and don't you dare stop watching my channel because I say this. Roll Tide. Yeah, I'm a Bama fan. But now before you go out of here in a huff, small time, now let me explain this. I'm a Bama fan because of their head coach, Nick Saban. Okay. Saban was born in West Virginia. So that I can, I got a lot of reasons for liking Alabama. The legend of Bear Bryant, etc. But yeah, Saban's a West Virginia guy. He's born in West Virginia. I can support Alabama on the basis of the fact that I want to see a son of West Virginia, go on and do good things. So that's kind of why I'm a Bama fan. And I like Saban's style. Which, by the way, if you're a college football fan, there is nothing more entertaining than watching the Alabama sideline and waiting for what is going to be a Nick Saban temper eruption. That great moment when he takes off the headset and slings it on the ground and gets in somebody's grills. It's just... It is, it's like waiting to watch the train wreck. It's like watching, it's like, it's going to happen. Sooner or later, Nick Saban's going to lose his cool on the sideline, and he's going to just blow up on something, and it's just glorious to watch. So All right, War Eagle it is. And a small time republic, I still love you. You know, let's wait for the Iron Bowl. We'll start talking then. On the weekend of the Iron Bowl, you come back here. We're going to talk some trash. Oh, he's marrying in Alabama. Well, very good. Congratulations. Hope that she makes him very, very happy. So yeah. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. So VMI is 2-2. They're 1-0 in conference. Are they still in the Southern Conference, or what conference are they in, Leanne? I'm curious. You know, inquiring minds want to know. Are they still in the old Southern Conference, or what conference are they in these days? Just curious. So yeah, that's going on in the world. It's 11:50 now. 10 minutes to kick off for all your college football games. My name is Brian Tripp, and I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Let's get into our next topic. So, if the government fell into a shutdown in the woods and no one was there to hear it, would anyone care? Yeah, I'm probably butchering the old joke, but yeah, it looks like we're headed for a government shutdown, by the way. And dude, that's good. That's good. Oh gosh. That's all right. That's all right. I'm a big boy. I can take it. I can take the slings and arrows of outrageous football fortune. That's okay. That's okay. So, yes, we are headed for a government shutdown. Headline for Breitbart. House short-term spending bill fails as government barrels towards shutdown. Article written by Bradley J. The House rejected a short-term spending bill on Friday designed to keep the government open through September 30th deadline, making a government shutdown almost inevitable. Speaker Kevin McCarthy continuing resolution failed 198 to 232, despite his inclusion of significant border security measures included to coax skeptical conservatives. 21 Republicans opposed the measure, which would have extended the government funding for 30 days. McCarthy is expected to meet with his Republican colleagues Friday afternoon to discuss a path forward. Majority Whip Tom Emmer, Republican Minnesota, alerted colleagues the votes are expected Saturday, a change from the previous schedule. The Senate, meanwhile, continues to negotiate to determine how much Ukraine aid and border security funds to include. Those negotiations are primarily being held between independent Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, who caucuses with Democrats, and a handful of Republicans. The Senate CR is expected to last 47 days and will not include spending cuts in the House CR. Okay, let's get into this. A government shutdown. Oh my God, the government's going to shut down. And this is bad. Why? Now, don't get me wrong. I am not trying to speak ill of most people who have jobs with the federal government. They're like anybody else in this world. They're trying to make a living. They're trying to help their families. This is going to hurt them. I'm not disputing any of that. I'm not trying to lessen the impact of what's going to happen. Okay? I'm not speaking ill of them. The government they work for, on the other hand, definitely ought to be spoken ill of. So, what are we to make of all this? Well, the Senate, as stated in that article from Breitbart, is trying to figure out how much money they can put in for Ukraine. Well, before we came on the air, I was trying to catch up on what news I could, because I knew that that Steve Bannon's got a show on War Room that runs on Saturday mornings, and it turns out the Republicans are telling Mitch McConnell, either in the Senate or the House or both, that any funding for Ukraine is toxic. They stick anything in there. If it gets to the House, they won't vote for it. We may be in a situation where the Congress is not going to appropriate any more money for Ukraine. Now, I didn't say Ukraine wouldn't still get money, Because if I know the Biden administration, they're going to find some way to keep pumping money into that mess in Eastern Europe. But right now, as far as keeping the government open, if it's dependent upon aid to Ukraine being as part of the package, forget it. It ain't happening. As of right now, Mitch McConnell is being told, you stick one thin dime in a continuing resolution, one thin dime that goes toward Ukraine, and the House will not pass it. I don't care. It doesn't matter how much he tries to put the squeeze on people. It ain't happening. And I got a feeling there are significant members of the Republican caucus in the Senate who feel the exact same way. I know Rand Paul, his counterpart from Kentucky, has come out and said, I am not voting for a CR that's got any money in it for Ukraine. So I think courage is courageous, and I got a feeling people on all sides are going to be like, nope, we ain't giving them one more dime. Yeah, well, good point. That might be the best way to avoid the problem altogether. Now, I want to go to one other article. There's a couple others I'm going to point to. What would the practical effects of a government shutdown be? Well, let me take you to the last paragraph of an article from justthenews.com. Headline, lawmakers to return Saturday just hours before partial government shutdown. And I want to go to the very last paragraph of this article because this is kind of important. Oops. Here we go. According to Congressional Research Service data, more than 2 million American civilians are employed by the federal government in all 50 states and U.S. territories. If the government shuts down, then essential employees would continue working without pay, while others would be furloughed, meaning they would be suspended until funding could be passed, and then they receive back pay. All federal contractors do not necessarily have the same certainty about back pay. One other paragraph I'll read. The Pentagon has warned that a shutdown without a defense appropriations bill passed would mean many troops would not receive pay. In the past, Congress has either passed the appropriations bill for the military or passed a specific bill to make sure troops get their pay. Like I said, I'm not trying to minimize the impact of this government shutdown on government employees, including members of the military. I get it. I understand. Times are tough. People need to be paid for the work that they do. I respect that totally. Okay. But as that last paragraph from justthenews.com's article points out, if the government shuts down, essential employees would continue working without pay, meaning they would be suspended until, while others would be furloughed, meaning they would be suspended until funding could be passed and then receive back pay. All right. So in the end, the salaries are going to be there. Okay. So what are the other practical effects of a government shutdown? Let me take you to a tweet by Andy Biggs, congressman from Arizona. Despite what the media says, the vast majority of government remains open during a shutdown. Some of the services include Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans programs, military operations, postal service, and law enforcement. Don't always believe what you see on TV. And I think that's one thing, in spite of all of their inadequacies as far as communication is concerned, that the Republicans have finally learned how to do. They finally learned how to explain to people, okay, if the government shuts down, what does that mean? If essential services are still going to be there, no matter what, okay, then I think a lot of people out there in America are going to be like, okay, so we got a government shutdown. I'm still going to get my Social Security check. The mail's still going to run. Medicare and Medicaid is still going to be there, and so on. They've learned how to communicate that. Now, I bring up that point. Hold on to that thought because I'm going to show you something here in a minute that might surprise you. Joe says, and good morning, sir. Glad to have you here. Andy Biggs is my congressman. Yeah, Andy Biggs is great. I love Andy. He's fabulous. If I could get me 10 more just like him in Arizona, I'd be tickled to death. He's fabulous. Although Paul Gosart from out there is pretty good too. Love Gosart. He's fantastic. So where do things stand right now? Well, the House, over the past few days, has passed appropriations bills that cover, I think, 3 or 4 different areas. 70% of funding for the federal government has passed the House of Representatives. It's now over in the Senate. What's the Senate done? Nothing. They haven't passed a single appropriations bill, and they haven't passed a continuing resolution. They have done nothing. Now, the House, despite the messy way that they've gotten there, no thanks to Kevin McCarthy, by the way, they've at least passed appropriations bills. They're sitting over in the Senate. Now, I said a moment ago the Republicans have learned how to communicate on this. How well have they learned to communicate? Let me show you something, because this will surprise you. This was on CNN. Folks, take a listen to this.
I think this one was a bit of a surprise to me, given I think what the conventional wisdom is. So there have been a number of polls on this. So who would you mainly blame for a government shutdown? Actually, the plurality blamed Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress at 39%, the GOP in Congress at 33%, both equally at 22%. But in the 2 polls that I have seen, when you combine Biden and the congressional Democrats, more voters blame them than blame Republicans in Congress. And that is very different than what we've seen in prior shutdowns. So who is the public blame for prior shutdowns? Republicans in 95, 96, Republicans in 2013, and Republicans in 2018, 19. So this may be a shutdown that is quite different than that in terms of the public blame, because at least at this point, more Americans say they'll blame Biden and or the Democrats in Congress.
Well, isn't that interesting? Now, Joe Biden has the power of the bully pulpit, the presidency. He's got the ability to communicate. I think, if I had to guess, what Biden is waiting for is the government shutdown, and then you're going to see him really get in front of the microphone and just start trying to waylay the Republicans. If I had to guess, he's been doing a little bit of that up to this point, but not like he could. But at this point, most people, at least according to CNN's polling, they're blaming the Democrats. Now, when's the last time you saw that happen? It may very well be, because I remember the last shutdown. The last shutdown went for like 30 days. And Donald Trump was president, but people didn't blame Trump. Now, Trump's communication skills are amazing. So you can kind of understand how the Republicans didn't get blamed for that one. But here we've got a Democratic president, a democratically controlled Senate, and people are blaming the Democrats more than they're blaming the Republicans. Yeah, I agree with you. It is intriguing. Mainstream media is, yeah, it could very well be true. It gives me, I'm like you, it gives me some hope. Absolutely gives me some hope. So, $300 million for Ukraine was put forward on its own. Have not seen a vote yet. Oh, so they're going to try and do that as a standalone appropriation? That's pretty ballsy. Robert, I'm a little surprised they're doing that. I mean, I think what you're telling me is absolutely true. I have no reason not to believe you. But if that's what they're trying to do, from my perspective, that's got to be one of the dumbest things I've heard of. Because that ain't going to happen. Okay? I'm telling you right now, if what Bannon is hearing is correct, that Mitch McConnell is being told there are not any votes whatsoever for Ukraine funding, if they're trying to do this as some kind of a strong arm tactic, this is going to blow up in their faces. If what is being heard is true, then this is just going to backfire bad on them. This is going to be an embarrassment to McConnell, to Schumer, to McCarthy. If they try and pull this crap, they're absolutely going to have this thrown right back in their face. This is just bad. This is a bad idea. So, yeah, I'm really surprised. Really, really surprised. Not like I said, I'm not saying you're wrong, but God, if they do this, that's backfire city, man. Backfire city. So it is 5 minutes after 12 on a Saturday. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. We're joined by a whole bunch of fun people as always. Robert Lowry's here. Small Time Republic is here. Joe's here. Leanne's here. Got people watching on Rumble. We got people watching on Twitter. We got people watching on the YouTube. And we're just having some fun going over some of the news items and talking about what it means and trying to figure it all out. So yeah, one last thing, and we'll throw this on under the headline of HodgePodge Stew. By the way, did you guys know that New York City is about to be rained out? I didn't realize how bad this was. I'd seen some tweets by Chrissy Mayer, the great comedian, which, by the way, follow her. She's tremendous. Love her to death. Chrissy is a sweetheart of a lady and one of the funniest comedians in America. She put out some tweets showing video from around New York City. And I thought, well, okay, it's not good. But I didn't realize how much rain they'd gotten. Did you know they've gotten 9 inches of rain in the past few days? Let me see if I can find this real quick. I know, let's see. Yeah, 7.97 inches of rain just on Friday. Yeah, just other parts of the Big Apple were just as wet, including Brooklyn, where a month's worth of rain, up to 4.5 inches, reportedly fell in only 3 hours. Now, I don't know about you, but you drop that much rain in a city or any metropolitan area, and I don't care how good your infrastructure is, you're going to get flooding. You don't believe me? Check some of this out. This will blow your mind. This is video that was taken, and I'll play this without sound just to give you an idea. This was in New York City just yesterday. I think this was in Brooklyn. Watch this. This'll blow your mind. Look at that. There's a whirlpool. I don't know if that's because of an open manhole. That's water just flowing down in the subway system. Just incredible. This is unbelievable to watch. These are people just record this stuff on their phones, uploaded it to social media. Just amazing. Water coming through the walls. My gosh. Yeah. Let me take you now to the headline from the New York Post. New York City can start to dry off today following Friday's heavy rains and floods. This was a picture from Prospect Park. Now, I guess all this rain's coming off of Tropical Storm Ophelia that brushed up along the coast in New York State. Big Apple will dry off Saturday as lingering rains from soaking it took earlier are expected to taper off by early afternoon. No new flooding was expected. In the Big Apple and Long Island, wind gusts were expected to range from 5 to 10 miles through Saturday. Some gusts approaching 20 miles an hour. Some could hit as high as 30 miles an hour on Montauk on Long Island. Just amazing. Jeez, oh, Pete. Look at this. Just incredible. Daggone. Meanwhile, the typically rain-heavy South has not had much. That's very true. That's very true. I know that, where I live here, it's very dry. I can't speak for other parts of the South, but yeah, it's been a very dry fall, and that kind of makes me nervous, particularly for wildfires. Wouldn't take a whole lot to send them off in parts of the South right now. God forbid it happen too. But yeah, this is really kind of amazing what's going on in New York City. Absolutely amazing. I read these stories and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, just incredible. Just incredible. So if you've got friends up in New York City, check on them. Ask them how they're doing. See if there's anything you can do for them. Help them out if you can. Because it's just incredible what's going on up there right now. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got. It's about 10 minutes after 12. So we're going to wrap this up a little earlier than usual. New videos will be coming out next week. I'm trying to get a guest, and I got to check back with her today, see if she's got availability. I'd like to get, I've reached out to Jessica Fensky, aka Forest Mommy. She's running for city council in Arvada, Colorado. And since we've got about a month to go to the election, I want to see how she's doing. And if I can get it arranged, we'll have her on this week to talk about, how her campaign's going. Love talking to Jessica. She's one of my favorite people. Nutty as a Christmas fruitcake. Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, I mentioned that at the top of the show. No, thank you guys. Congratulations to you. I said it before and I'll say it again. I can make all the videos I want. I can do all the live streams I want. I can whatever. But if people aren't watching, if people aren't subscribing, doesn't make a whole lot of difference what I do. But the fact that, in 6 months, we've got 500 subscribers on this channel, which, by the way, on Rumble, we crossed over the 100 subscriber mark, which I thought was very cool. That was just very humbling. Like, we've got 30,000 views on YouTube, 500 subscribers. We've got 100 subscribers on Rumble for a little channel. It got started in earnest in March of this year. And you guys are amazing. Genuinely, you guys are absolutely amazing. And I promise I will keep trying to make what I do here better and better and better. And we'll keep trying to make it as good as it can possibly be. So yeah, it's the weekend. It's Saturday. Thank you guys for stopping by, as always, to Front Porch Brunch. You guys are just amazing. I've loved hanging out with you. I love hanging out with you every Saturday morning. You guys make my weekends fabulous. So we'll be back, start Monday with new videos. Like I said, I'm trying to get Forest Mommy on for an update about how her campaign's going. So thank you guys as always. So enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your college football. Have fun out there. And yes, small time Republic, I'll even give you a War Eagle. War Eagle. Raw. Okay, I was Sarah. All right, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a War Eagle until you play my Crimson Tide at the Iron Bowl, okay? I'll give you a War Eagle until then. After that, you're on your own. And good luck to your VMI. And Robert, if I had to guess, I'd say you're probably a Buckeyes fan. So if I had to guess. But yeah, enjoy your college football games this weekend. Enjoy your time with your families. Thank you so much, as always, for stopping by Front Porch Brunch. And we'll be back next Saturday morning. In the meanwhile, remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." We'll see you next weekend.